So welcome to No Stupid Questions.
Hello, everybody.
This week,
What's up, folks?
It's for real.
It's
With
for real.
TLeake
like,
and
rah,
Jag.
rah, like a dungeon drag. What's up?
No specific order.
I love the
No
script.
Stupid Questions show.
Can we curse on this show?
Just do whatever we
It's for
feel.
real.
Tanya,
Okay.
your question for today
Rah,
is
rah, like
All
a
right.
dungeon
Stupid.
drag.
So,
Question.
No more to another episode
What's the name
of
of
No
the show,
Stupid
Jay?
Questions.
Jag.
No Stupid Questions.
I'm sorry.
Welcome to this episode of
My first question is, who are you?
No Stupid Questions.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to the latest episode of the No Stupid Questions Show.
Hey.
Oh, okay. We are here. I am your host, TLeake, and I'm
this is
joined
Jag.
by... He's
I'm
just
jumping
ready.
in. I'm just excited to go.
I'm excited to hear about this question.
Well, you know what?
Um,
This is a No Stupid Question show, and TLeake is going to tell you what this show is about.
It is the show with two smart, I got my air quotes, people, and one stupid question, or so we thought.
I think I'm going to reject those air quotes now. I think it's two smart people.
Okay, all right. Well, let's prove that right.
So I think part of my excitement was after a very long time, I got to see TLeake in public
Yes,
person
yes.
last
you're right.
week. So,
You're right.
so I'm still riding high. But let me
All
tell you
right.
what this stupid question is for today. Have we been hoodwinked by the Supreme Court?
Oh, you're gonna use a Malcolm word on me?
I don't know if Malcolm actually said that. I know Denzel said it at playing Malcolm, but maybe Malcolm did actually say it.
Yeah, I would like to know.
Led astray.
Led astray. We have been led astray.
I
But
tend
I
to agree with that.
think hoodwink. So the definition of hoodwink is to deceive or trick someone.
Ooh.
I think we've been hoodwinked.
So how does the Supreme Court deceive or trick someone?
Well, it does go back to, it was actually on the Stephen Colbert show. They had from the hearings for Brett Kavanaugh, Susan Barrett, and Neil Gorsuch.
Okay.
Three of the Supreme Court justices.
Their confirmation hearings?
Their confirmation hearings, thank you. They said Roe v. Wade is the law of the land. It is decided. And sounds like they changed their minds about that.
Well, okay, so you might need to give people a little backdrop. Why do you say they changed their minds? I mean, what's happening? I hadn't seen them rule on anything yet.
Oh man, you're just trying to get me to give the background so you could dig in later. Yes. Well, you are right. If people don't know, there is a lot of talk and barricades going up in front of the Supreme Court justice offices because a draft of the judgment for the most recent case challenging Roe v. Wade, which is
The Mississippi case.
Mississippi versus Mississippi. Yes.
Yeah, we get the name of the case in a second.
Okay.
I guess I'm so disturbed by what's happening there.
But bottom line is they are going to reject Roe v. Wade. And you have to give me the right words, Jag, for all of this, the legalese.
Well, basically, they're going to overturn it. With this new case.
That's the word I was looking for. So they're overturning this precedent that has been in place for 50 years or so. I'd have to, again, Jag, I'd have to go back to you in terms of how often precedents that were settled have been unsettled.
Well, it's happened quite a bit, actually.
At the Supreme Court level?
At the Supreme Court level. I mean, you had the Dred Scott case, which said that Blacks were not humans, that they were not citizens of the United States, and that got overturned. You had the case that allowed for Jim Crow laws. So cases get overturned by the Supreme Court all the time.
Did they get overturned, or did the legislation make it?
They actually got overturned.
Oh, okay.
The court has evolved over time to, as Dr. King used to say, is the arc of justice. I'm messing up the quote. I'm gonna have to get that too. But the case we're talking about now is Dobbs versus Jackson's Women's Health Organization.
Okay.
the court got the opportunity to weigh in on the Mississippi abortion ban, which was intended to challenge Roe v. Wade, which was heard or argued last year. And apparently a draft opinion has been leaked, which hardly ever happens.
Well, that definitely hardly ever happens, that a draft decision before it was final and go into basically effect as the law of the land. Yeah. Right.
Now, the interesting thing is it is not the new law yet because it is still a draft. And this would not be, and we're not 100% certain that it will be the new law of the land because justices can change their minds and in this case, be enlightened and come up with a different view, in my opinion. And maybe that's why it was leaked. Maybe someone said, "Ooh, if I leak this, we can maybe apply some pressure and have people go barricade the Supreme Court, and maybe some of them will change their minds." I don't know. So it's gonna be interesting to find out who leaked this draft opinion.
Okay, and I do want to. I actually wasn't sure, and I did. So Plessy v. Ferguson was overruled in Brown versus Board of Education, which I didn't know that was the exact sort of matchup. I knew that Brown v. Board of Education was revolutionary with the whole separate but equal, but I didn't.
Yeah, so where I stumbled, which I should not stumble, was what overturned the Dred Scott case. So I'm a little embarrassed that I can't come up with that case name real quick, but I'm gonna get it shortly. So Hoodwinked. Well, I'm gonna have to answer that we were not hoodwinked by Comey, Barry, Kavanaugh, and Gorsuch.
It's not because, the question, but okay.
Well, I thought the question was, have we been hoodwinked by the Supreme Court?
Yeah. Oh, you only named 3 justices.
Well, those are the ones I think those are the ones you called out. They're the ones that in their confirmation hearings, they affirmed or they agreed that Roe v. Wade was the law of the land, and as the law of the land, it must be followed. So I think you have to be very careful about listening to what people say and understanding what they mean, because at the time they said it, it was the law of the land. Now, what the next question should have been, if you have the opportunity to overturn it, would you? And I don't know if that was the next question, but they answered factually correct. It was the law of the land at the time of their confirmation hearings. And as the law of the land, it had to be followed.
I would say that hoodwinking includes an intention to mislead, regardless of whether or not, as you said, they were hopefully very smart and competent people. So if you are, as a smart and competent person at hearings to confirm you for the Supreme Court, you know where the question is headed. And
but you never, so to their defense, and maybe to the legislators that were questioning them, maybe they were the ones we have to worry about their competency. But to the judge's defense, you never answer a question that wasn't asked when you testify. That's just something you don't do. You train your whole legal life to tell your witnesses not to answer something that wasn't asked. So you really can't expect them to answer something that wasn't asked.
Okay, but that is also hoodwinking. It doesn't just because it is how things are done, which is a whole nother issue, or that's how they train people to do it, doesn't mean that it's not hoodwinking. I'm just saying.
Well, hoodwinking. Okay, I don't know. I think
that's hoodwinking. So this gets into so are you lying when you omit something?
Are you lying when you are silent? Are you lying when you're silent?
Of omission. What?
When you're silent. They didn't omit something. They answered the question fully.
Silence is omission. That is included in omission. If you don't say anything, that is by definition omitting a bunch.
I don't know if I agree with that. I guess maybe it's the lawyer in me. Maybe it's the lawyer in me that's having some real issues with this.
What is you're saying silence is not omission?
I'm saying when you're asked a question.
No. Answer the question. I heard what you said. I said that silence is omission and omission is hoodwinking. And therefore, them answering the question, knowing what the question was about, and not including.
No. There is no knowing what the question.
You just said it. You just said, don't say anything more, because what would happen naturally.
That's not saying knowing. You could guess what the question is about, but you don't know. You're not in that person's head.
Again, that is not giving them.
So this is a lesson to
and intelligence either.
This is a lesson to our listeners. Free legal advice. It's not legal advice because y'all would have to pay me. Do not ever volunteer information. Ever. Volunteer information in a testimony type environment unless it is asked of you. But let's get to the crux of the issue.
Omit. Hoodwink, however you can. Are
you just disturbed by the omission, or are you disturbed by the potential ruling?
Well, so now if you ask me, did I believe anything that came out of some of those people's mouths?
Right. I mean, Kavanaugh also said he didn't.
Yeah, I know.
Something with those women.
Anyway,
nobody believes.
Well, he talked out of both sides of his mouth on that, because he also said, "Well, I was young, blah 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 blah."
Right. Everybody did.
Anyway, oh gosh. So there was a conversation actually where I saw Jag about this concept of the shadow docket. And when we talked about the confirmation of JJ, that's our name for Justice Jackson, by the way, there's this concept, and I had brought up this fact that I feel like there's a lack of transparency, and I think part of it is sort of the history of just how they've operated, I guess the normal mode of operations, but something feels off. And people have said, the first thing that's off is that no draft has ever been leaked. And, everybody's saying that it very well could have been an intentional leak, because they knew that people need to wrap their heads around that it might be better if it comes out as a draft first. So what do you think about that, actually, just as a quick, and the process of how this happened? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think, first of all, maybe they listened to our show and decided that they needed more transparency, so they were going to put this draft out there. Maybe that's a good thing.
Yes.
You listen to the No Stupid Question show, and things happen that the world's never seen. First of all, I do believe that the draft being released allows for...
Released.
I did. I don't think it was leaked. Nobody,
okay.
Alito didn't leave it in the bathroom stall and the next person picked it up. I don't think Alito leaked it. I bet you have to worry about some of those clerks keeping their jobs. We're going to see which one gets fired. But the interesting thing is, and you talk about transparency, the interesting thing is, now that this draft is released, you have a opportunity to maybe put pressure on the process, because it is not final. And it's going to be interesting with those barricades in front of the Supreme Court building, if they have any effect. I don't think they will, but they might. Who knows? It's going to be interesting. Well, I don't know if we want to talk about whether or not Roe v. Wade and what, it's a very difficult subject. I do think that Roe v. Wade got to the right conclusion, but it's a very difficult subject. The interesting thing is, Alito, in his draft opinion, talked about allowing the will of the people to say what should happen for, in this case, for abortions, whether or not they should be allowed or not. And this is the same Alito who is trying to dismantle the right to vote. It's the same Alito that allows gerrymandering by, in this case, Republican state houses that want to draw the district lines in their favor. All those things are against the will of the people deciding what the law should be. So it's just ironic that he writes all of this will of the people. We should listen to the will of the people. But at the same time, he's trying to undermine the ability of the people to speak their will. I mean, it's just amazing the world that we live in. There's so many things wrapped up into this decision that we could be talking about this forever.
My fear is that this is a slippery slope. And I understand that in the draft, haven't gotten to that part. I've read about 10 pages now,
okay,
of 98. So,
right.
Is that, Alito says that this is only related to abortion. And one of the fundamental sort of reasons that Alito gives for this is that abortion is not explicitly protected in the Constitution, and that it's not explicitly protected in the Constitution, and that the states have had laws in effect before that banned abortion. Now, when I think of slavery, which prior to the amendment was,
basically codified.
And states also quite well supported that. That does not, is his foundation, from what, again, I understand and have read thus far, is so, I mean, it to me, again, the hoodwinking comes from this notion. And to be honest, I don't know, maybe they're hoodwinking themselves. Maybe that should be the question. Is the Supreme Court hoodwinking itself? Because the notion that, again, we can't, Alito's words, we can't, paraphrasing, we can't think about what the public is. We have to do this strictly from everything he says, it doesn't make sense. I mean, even from a logical legal perspective, like there's some legal decisions that I don't agree with that I get. His seems to go in and out of very much kind of very opinion based. It doesn't feel as, and I say feel, which shouldn't be what happens with law, right? But it's clear to me that there's too much, there's contradictions in what I've read so far, and I've only read 10 pages. I guess that's all. I'm not gonna ramble anymore.
So it is very interesting because the same, as you just suggested, the same line of thinking could be, and the Civil War was fought over the South saying that the North was not allowing the will of the people to speak and allow slavery to continue. Abortion has been thought of as one of the unenumerated rights in the Constitution. And those are rights expressly protected against federal infringement by the original meaning of the Ninth Amendment. The right to travel is an unenumerated right to privacy, autonomy, dignity, and today the right to have an abortion is one of those, which Alito is trying to carve out. It is dangerous, and it could be a slippery slope. On the flip side, abortion and the right to abortion has been linked throughout history with the eugenics movement. And therefore, I am very uncomfortable with the origins of Planned Parenthood, the right to abortion origins. I am very uncomfortable with, because it seems clear to me they were not concerned in the beginning with allowing women to have this right because they respected and cared for women. It seems clear to me that they thought this was a population control effort, and more specifically, to control the population of people that they thought were undesirable. I have this whole problem with this issue. And I think about up to 56 million abortions that we have records of since Roe v. Wade. And about 30 million of those were probably Black pregnancies that were aborted. And I guess I'm trying to scare some Republicans, and I'm trying to scare those conservative judges on the Supreme Court right now. Are they effectively going to put an extra 30 million people in the Black rolls over the next 40 years? Is that what they really want? Maybe that's a reason for them not to stick with this majority opinion and go otherwise. It's a complicated issue. I fully believe in a woman's right to choose. I fully do. I don't think I would ever waver on that. But I also wonder how much stronger our community would be just with those sheer numbers. It's complicated.
Well, Well, I appreciate your sharing that, because I think that's an interesting another lens to put on it. It is a complicated issue for sure. I mean, because there's a spectrum, right? There's people that are against it, full stop. There are people that are, hey, there are exceptions, rape, incest,
Right.
medical need. And then there are people who say, hey, it's a woman's body, it's her choice. And I guess it's such a unique set of circumstances. I mean, just in looking at that, right? It is also complicated because this only happens to certain people. And there are other people making the decision about it. And I don't know that's, and you again, you can help me out here. I don't know that happens in any other instance. You can say Amy Coney Barrett hoodwinked us. Because I think her wording may have been a little different, may not have been as much of the just answer the question and omit the rest. But yeah, I think there's a lot of complication with that, because ultimately there is a concept in Roe v. Wade of viability. And that is interesting to throw that out, because to me, that is in the Constitution. Whether or not this is something, someone, the difference between something, someone. So that interpretation just really takes this, I'm just throwing my hands up and just, letting it. So yeah, I again, I just don't understand how this becomes a throw it back to the states question, because it is, to me, very strongly rooted in the autonomy, as you were saying before, the freedom of a large proportion of the citizens of the United States. And it is being
more
done
than half
to them.
More than half.
Exactly.
And so the interesting thing is, how will this galvanize? Because effectively what happens by this ruling, I get back to who I'm trying to galvanize, but effectively what happens with this ruling is it does put the onus back on state legislatures and governors to sign law to say where that state stands on the board. The issue.
Actually, in a lot of cases, as you know, it doesn't.
It's already there.
Because they got the trigger laws, which they said only 30% of people in those states know.
Yes, it's already there in 19 states. So the day that Roe v. Wade gets overturned, if it gets overturned, 19 states the next day have anti-abortion laws on the books. But I guess you can change those laws at the state level as well. And so where I was getting to is it's going to be interesting to see how this galvanizes women in the political process, in the voting process, Black, white, Hispanic, or other.
What was the name of that? There was a TV show, I believe it was on Hulu, with Kate Blanchett, I believe. And she played the leader of the conservative movement that really galvanized the women's conservative movement around the time of the Equal Rights Amendment and Roe v. Wade. It was really, really interesting. It's a very interesting, very great show. I think she was nominated for some things. It really, I look at that and I wonder if that's what we're going to go back to, because there are women who mobilize on both sides.
Correct.
Let's be, one to say, yeah, we got this, we got to keep it going. And the others to be like, no, this is our bodies, our decision. So it will be very, very interesting to see. But whatever your opinion, I think that it is really, really important that you don't just throw up your hands and let the chips fall, because there's going to be a fight.
There's definitely going to be a fight. I wonder, again, the justices could change their minds, and that 6-3 suspected fallout could end up being 5-4 the other way. But this does seem to me like one of those pendulum moments where they might have gone too far, and they may compel people to act in a way that they weren't compelled to act prior to this decision. I do think this is a complicated issue, and I think who knows what this issue sparks and what the result of it is. It's going to be different than what people think it's going to be. I guess I always think things are going to turn out right. So I'm not in despair. So I have hope that, maybe this sparks movement in the right direction. Sometimes you have to get slapped in the face before you wake up, and you didn't like that slapped in the face.
Did you intend to use that particular? Oh God. And I did want to say one thing. I was talking to my father about this, and the thing that I mentioned that I don't have the statistics with me now, and I can find them and we can send them with the show, but that, most of the people that are against abortion support the death penalty, and also are against a lot of the services for
healthcare,
indigent people, et cetera. So, there is a line that says, oh, we're protecting this. But then as soon as this quote unquote unborn person becomes born, they're like, kill them if they do, but don't support them to not be criminals. And if they become a criminal, kill them. And then so to me, it's BS. It's BS. And my father wasn't aware of that particular sort of belief, sort of system typically that goes together. And I think it's really interesting because it's a balance. Again, I still believe, but yeah, you can't have your cake and eat it too. And I think this is, if you're going to force, just it really actually nauseates me to say it, but force a woman to have a child when she's not ready, when she's not able, when she's, not willing, and then set her up for failure even further down the line. I find it really, really interesting. I'll say it that way.
It's mind-boggling. I mean, it appears that there are a group of people who only love unviable lives. Once the life becomes viable, they don't want to give it health care. They don't want to make sure they're educated. They don't want to make sure they're well-fed or have any of the things that a person needs.
Or I even give up, they don't care if. So they care, but then they don't care once it's reached that viable birth, everything out the window. So what's our call to action? Because we don't want you guys to just be down, leaving the show.
Let me say one more thing, and this is not going to help anyone be up or down.
It's not going to help us out.
Abortions will still happen. Make no mistake.
Thank you.
They will go underground, but they will still happen. And the danger is going to be for the wealthy and the people who say they against abortion, but they want their precious family members to have the abortion that they want to have, will spend a lot of money for it. And the people who don't have a lot of money will have to undergo dangerous procedures. So it's, this is going to be a disaster from that standpoint. Call to action.
So as you said, the final decision is expected to come out in June, beginning of July,
right,
when they finish this session. So we will see whether this was a predictor or a whip up the anti to make sure that, there's some pressure put, whether or not that succeeds or not. So hold on to your horses, but know that your option is really to get out the vote. The other way that this can be changed is by legislation.
Correct.
And that actually codifies this right.
Correct.
So the midterms are becoming even more interesting. That's for sure.
We have to register as many people as possible. And we have to go back to the days of 95% turnout. And
keep in mind what we talked about with the trigger laws. They're at the state level. So as JAG always likes to say, All politics is local.
I think the fight is local first.
So
No question about it.
make sure that you participate at all levels, local, state, and federal, because they will all play a role in how this actually trickles down to your community, your neighborhood, your day-to-day life.
There we go.
All right. Well, that was definitely not a stupid question.
Those stupid questions.
You can ask any question that you want, or don't ask no stupid ass questions.